From Fox Television in Washington, D.C., this is the 10 o'clock news.
Back to the beaches of Normandy. D-Day plus 50, the world remembers. D.C. police are looking for a clown in costume who's been threatening children. Another former president comes out against Oliver North as Virginia's Senate seat battle revs up. The art of casting a line. Hundreds of area children learn how to go fish. Good evening, I'm Cynthia Steele.
And I'm David Burnett. Morris Jones has the night off. The Western world looked over its shoulder today to June 6, 1944, the largest sea invasion in military history, and the turning point of the war in Europe. President Clinton joined other world leaders gathered today in Normandy for the 50th anniversary of D-Day. Fox 5's Niles Latham has details on today's memorial ceremonies.
The slate-gray skies and the bone-chilling wind were eerily similar to that bloody day 50 years ago, when 224 Army Rangers scaled the forbidding cliffs of Pointe du Hoc to knock out Nazi howitzers. More than half of them died that day. Today, Ken Bargman of Kensington, Maryland, a survivor of that assault, took his son Michael, a disabled Vietnam veteran, and his grandson Kyle, along with President Clinton, on a personal tour of the jagged edges. And later the president paid tribute to those who fought in that battle.
We are the children of your sacrifice. We are the sons and daughters you saved from tyranny's reach.
The poignant scene was just a small part of the 50th anniversary of D-Day, a day the world stopped still to remember this century's greatest battle. It was a day for monarchs and world leaders, and for pomp and circumstance. And it was a day for old soldiers and old memories. And it was a day Mr. Clinton, born 2 years after the war ended, tried to reconcile the controversy over his own past. Aides hope images like this solitary walk on Omaha Beach will help erase the bitterness that many veterans feel about his failure to serve in Vietnam. The President's D-Day remembrance began at a sunrise ceremony on the USS George Washington.
We gather in the calm after sunrise today to remember that fateful morning. The pivot point of the war, perhaps the pivot point of the 20th century.
Later, he spoke at the Colville-sur-Mer Cemetery, where 9,386 Americans are buried. He told veterans their fallen comrades did not die in vain.
To you who brought us here, I promise, we will be the new pathfinders, for we are the children of your sacrifice.
But most D-Day vets said their minds weren't really on presidential politics. They were thinking about old comrades and old times, when the world was a less complicated place, and when they were transformed from boys to men on the chilly beachheads of Normandy in the flash of an enemy gun. Niles Latham, Fox News.
Thousands of D-Day vets and their families have traveled to Normandy this week from all over the world, as you've seen. Today, they took part in 5 commemorative events. Correspondent Judy Fortin has been covering the D-Day anniversary via satellite. She describes the high point.
Cynthia, they all had their own emotions. Imagine the veterans coming back to this area, some of them for the first time in 50 years, and sitting atop Pointe du Hoc, or maybe at Utah Beach or Omaha Beach, or here at the American Cemetery. Each one had their emotional substance for the different veterans. I would have to say, from watching from my perspective, being here at the American Cemetery was very emotional. This was the major speech for President Clinton, and the crowd was enormous. About 10,000 people showed up. Half of the crowd was made up of veterans. And of course, being in the shadow of these 9,300 or so graves of U.S. soldiers had to have special meaning for all of those veterans who came back to this area. Cynthia?
How did the vets react to him today?
Well, Cynthia, as you know, there had been a lot of talk before President Clinton even landed ashore in France, and that just didn't seem to materialize today, according to the vets that I spoke with. He was very well received here. In fact, people were saying that his speech was right on target, and he said the things he needed to say, especially about future generations understanding the importance and significance of D-Day itself. Some of the veterans said that they may not agree with President Clinton's politics, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't respect the man who is their commander-in-chief.
Once again, that was Judy Fortin from Normandy. As for President Clinton, he remains in France tonight. Tomorrow, he will address the French National Assembly.
And here at home, there were also several events to commemorate the D-Day anniversary. Dozens of Navy vets were on hand for a wreath-laying ceremony this morning at the U.S. Navy Memorial downtown. The event featured the Navy Band and Color Guard. At the same time, Vice President Al Gore spoke at ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery.
The Defense Department is paying a special honor to a group of veterans at a military retirement home. Fox 5's Tom Hendrick caught up with the D-Day vets. The Fairfax is the first retirement group designated by Defense as a World War II commemorative community.
A drill team paraded with the spit and polish of military pomp. It was the kind of march that once quickened the step of these elder veterans who lived near Fort Belvoir. Among them, 76-year-old Joel Thomason, who was part of the charge on June 6, 1944 at Utah Beach.
Well, the most searing memory is the loss of between 60 and 70 of my men. They were my friends. I guess I just remember losing them, and I thought I'd prepared myself before we ever went in.
They are all officers and their spouses, and some claim this retirement community represents the biggest single concentration of World War II's remaining leaders. Now old and frail, they remembered that fateful historic time when it was kill or be killed.
It was, as President Roosevelt described, a mighty endeavor to preserve our civilization and to set free a suffering humanity.
Another senior face in the crowd is Harold Sant. He led the 607th Tank Destroyer Battalion from Normandy's beach across Europe, capturing 58 towns, helping save Western democracy.
Wonderful guy.
Now he thinks of the friend he lost to a Nazi bullet.
I went over and I took a look at him.